Alright guys, for today's trek into DIY tech, we're actually going to set up a brand new flight controller, and we're going to use PX4, and we're also going to use QGroundControl to do that. We're not going to have the, so we're just going to focus on that one firmware and that one ground control software. We'll have other videos later on ArduPilot and Mission Planner. If you guys want to see that, just put it down in the comments, and we'll create a video for specifically for those. But this is one that I use most often, so we're gonna go ahead and set it up there so you guys can see how that works. We're gonna be using the hardware store drone, and so we've got a Control 0 here from mRobotics. We're not advertising for them. This is just a flight controller that I use in a bunch of projects. So that's what we've got set up in there. And yeah, we're just going to go through how to set it up from the beginning. And we're going to use PX4. And we're gonna use QGroundControl, as I said in the intro. And hey, these videos are always for informational purposes. This is by no means a comprehensive guide to how to do it. These videos are just to get you comfortable with the concepts, so you can go further on your own. There's a kabillion videos out there, but hopefully the way I'm doing it here maybe makes it clearer for some of you. So here we go. So I've already gone through and set everything else up. So we have an RC receiver here. We've got a telemetry radio right there. This is our power distribution board, and if you want to see how all of that goes together, I'm going to link to a video that actually shows the internals of a drone and goes through and explains those. So that link will be in the description, and you might see it, up on your up here where the is it there? It's there. It's there. There'll be a link somewhere. And we have the GPS set up. We've got the motors installed. So it's all the physical setup has already been done. So what we're going to go through is step through how to load your firmware, do your setup for your particular vehicle. We're going to look at some of the parameters that you can set. Some of these parameters will probably be different for your drone depending on how you have yours set up in particular. And we're just gonna step through it. As you can see here, we're on the QGroundControl page. It's also linked to PX4 here, and we're not going to go through this in depth, but it's at QGroundControl.com. And if you want to get into some of the programming, they also have a software development kit. But again, we're not here for that. If you want to look at the parameters for PX4 more in depth after we get through, they're on this side here. And our QGroundControl is already there. So I already have it open there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug into our flight controllers USB. Sorry, I have my allergies are really bad today, so please forgive the sniffling and what have you. But as you can see here, we've already connected a USB cable there. You're going to need to connect directly in order to load the firmware. So we're going to go to Vehicle Setup in QGroundControl, and we're going to click on the Firmware tab. Always make sure you have the latest software. We've got the props removed here, and somebody I started watching a while back. I'm a survey drone guy, design, build, and use survey drones mainly. Not an FPV guy, but there's this guy called Joshua Bardwell, and I started watching him, and I learned so much on those. Every video I watch, he's great. I'll put a link in the description as well, so you can check that out. But there's one thing he said one time when he was setting things up. He said, "Take your props off, you numbskulls. Take your props off." And I never forgot that. So anytime you're working on the bench with your drone, yeah, just remove your props to avoid any issues. And what I do, as you can see here, if you can see, there's some blue painter's tape on there. I put little flags on there so that I can see the motor spinning when it comes time to check the direction of the spin. And we're going to do that as well during this video. So set that to firmware. Now what you're going to do is, with the cable plugged in, nothing else plugged into that USB port on your laptop, go ahead and plug that in. And we'll see that it right here, it's a little bit shaded, but you can see connected to bootloader. This is your bootloader version. This is your board ID for the flight controller that you're setting up there. Sorry, just checking the camera. So this is your board ID, and this is how much memory you have available to load all of this into. So we're going to do the PX4 stable release, and it always has the latest one here. If you have this, if you have a connection to the internet, it'll automatically check for you. You can do, we're not going to touch on these because you have different versions of PX4 that you can select to load on there, including a custom firmware if you are developing firmware. If you're developing new types of drones, you can use this, but we're gonna go ahead and grab the latest stable release, and we'll say OK, and it's going to go through. It's going to erase the old one, and it's going to grab the firmware online, and after it's done erasing, it's going to go ahead and load the new one, or flash the new one onto your flight controller for you. Sorry about that. So it's just going to take a second here. We might zip to the end through the magic of editing. And there you go, verifying. And you're going to look for this down here, rebooting board and upgrade complete. So it's also going to verify for you that the program got loaded on there. So once you get this upgrade complete, that means it didn't have any issues uploading, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and unplug the USB, and we're going to remove it from our flight controller. So we're going to take that cable out, and I have a telemetry radio already set up here. So we're gonna close the cap up here, close everything down, and now we're gonna work with the telemetry radio here. So we're gonna plug in that telemetry radio, and we're switching us back to our main screen here just to watch the progress. So now when we plug in this battery, cool thing to have is for setting up your voltage levels. I have this battery alarm that I use. It also has a readout, and it tells you to a decimal. Well, depends on what the voltage is. What the voltage is on there, and that's going to help us later when we're setting up. The. Yeah, we're using somebody else's battery. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and plug in the drone. All right, and I saw a little bit of motion from all the motors, which means that the ESCs are getting power and they're responding. So I don't know if you saw that little
manual flight mode.
All right, so that's a good sign. That means that guess what? It at least can register a mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Airframe. This is the first thing that you're going to do, is set your Airframe. And this flight controller has already been used, but we're going to go through as if it had never been connected before. So I'm going to show you all the steps. So we did the firmware. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our Airframe, and I'm selecting generic quadcopter because this is a generic drone. So we're going to select that, highlighted, and apply and restart. And again, there's like PX4 has got a ton of different vehicles that you can choose from, even rovers and submersibles. But today we're using our quad rotor X in the X configuration. Apply and restart. And so this is going to apply those changes and restart the drone. We're pressing OK, and now we're going to wait for it to come back. So it's going to try to reconnect automatically.
Manual flight mode.
Awesome. As soon as it reconnects, so you see I went to this main screen. As soon as it reconnected, it switched me back to vehicle setup because it detects that not everything has been set up. And so the next thing I like to do is set up the battery. So we've got a 3S battery. So, and then we're going to look at the voltage here. Here's where the
warning, battery level emergency.
I know, because you're looking for a 3S battery and the voltage divider is not set up. So we've got 11.4 volts on here. So we're going to plug that in here, 11.4, and then we're going to click on calculate, and that's going to set our voltage divider for us. So now when we go to the main screen, we're going to see that voltage level is tracking with what we just set up, right? So we're at 55%, but that's enough battery for us to finish this setup here. Now, next thing I do is I set up the radio. I leave the sensors for last. You're wondering why. I leave the sensors for last because we're gonna have to spin the drone around and so forth, and so that's that can be done last. But I'm going to go ahead and set up my radio, and we have a well, actually, what we're gonna do next is set up parameters, because I don't have a safety switch on here. What I do is I use my radio for turning on or setting my arming. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and have a list of parameters that I usually go through and set up for my case, because I don't have an arming switch. You will probably have an arming switch, so you don't have to worry about this, but this is how you go through your parameters and set them up if you have something different. So I'm going to switch button, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a manual entry because I have a 1 here. So what that's going to give me is a momentary hold on the switch, and I'll show you on my radio when we set up the radio what that actually does. And so now I'm going to go to circuit breaker, and again, these will be on that website that I showed you. I'll provide a link as well, IO, and you can see by typing in the search, it filters out. And what I'm gonna do there is, that is correct. So I have the circuit breaker disabled. I don't have a switch, safety switch, so my circuit breaker for that safety switch is disabled. So that is correct. So I'm going to leave that, save. And none of these changes will happen until you reboot, and I'll show you how to reboot. I have one more parameter that I mess around with, and again, this is for my particular setup. My pre-arm check for the safety button, so pre-arm mode for the safety, and I'm gonna change that to always. So it's gonna think the safety button is always on, and so it'll let me arm with my radio instead of having to have both the switch on board and the radio arming going on. So I'll just have radio arming. Usually working by myself with these, so that's more than fine for my situation. Again, your situation might be different, and you won't have to mess with these parameters. But anyway, that's how you go through, and here you can see every parameter that your firmware has available. And yeah, go through at your leisure and just check these out. But by all means, do not experiment with these unless you know what you're doing, because flying vehicle in the air, coming down on somebody's head, bad situation. So there you go. We have our parameters set. Now we're going to go to the radio.
Welcome to OpenTX.
All right, so I just happen to have a
altitude flight mode.
Let's see, now it's this guy is a sign that the radio is connected, and you can see that as I move the sticks,
telemetry lost.
Yeah, I got the two antennas.
Telemetry recovered.
Got the two antennas too close together, and it lost connection. But
telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
You can see that as I move the sticks, everything moves. But the flight controller is not taking that input yet. You're like, yeah, you can see that stuff move, but nothing is happening up here where the flight controller is seeing things. So nothing is mapped yet. So in order to take care of that, we're gonna click on Calibrate, say OK, put the sticks in or the way that it's demonstrating in this graphic here. Click next and just follow the images there until it completes. Every time you move the stick to the appropriate position, it's going to advance forward to the next. And so yeah, just go ahead and follow the images there. And so now it's gonna signify that it needs the switches. So this is my arming switch. So you can see it's a momentary, the same way I set up in the parameters. And then I'm going to go through the rest of the switches and manipulate those, and it'll go ahead and add those to the radio setup on the flight controller. So it's just that easy. And then when I'm done with that, I'll say next, and it's going to go ahead and save it to, and you'll see that the radio is no longer red. So now I know that I put my arming switch on channel 8. I'm going to go ahead and select channel 8. Landing gear I always set up on channel 5, although it's not set up right now in the flight controller. Or no, I lied. I have it set up on channel 9 at this time on this radio. Okay, there you go. So it's unable to retract landing gear. It knows it's on the ground, so it's not gonna enable landing, pulling up the landing gear. And then the flight modes. So my flight modes are on channel 7. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to channel 7. My first flight mode away from me is position. So I set it up that way because when I'm flying, if I push it away from me, it's flying itself. So in my head, that's it's flying itself. The middle one I set to altitude mode, so that way when I'm moving between the two, if it goes to altitude mode, it will not hold position, but it'll hold its altitude. So just preferences that I have. And then moving the switch towards me, I have set up to
Manual flight mode.
Go into manual flight mode. And so we have a GPS lock, so it is able to go into manual flight mode. But I have the switch set up so that if I pull it towards me, it's manual. If I push it away from me, it goes into position mode. We don't have a lock, so we can't go into position mode. Now, the other thing that we're going to check now is all right, there we go. Keep hitting those switches. So now, since I have it on the bench, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my radio. Never do that in the field. In the field, if you have a battery in, the radio is the first thing you turn on and the last thing that you turn on. But we're doing the setup on the bench, so with no props. So we're gonna go to motors. We're gonna flip this switch, and you see it says props are removed, enable motor sliders, and I'm gonna move that over. So I'm gonna look for now motor number 1 to move, and we do have motor number 1 moving. And if you can see in here, I put labels in here to remind myself where the motors are. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 there. So that's where we're gonna move each one of these sliders in turn and watch for those motors to move, and we're also gonna watch for the direction of the motors. So we're gonna move motor 1. That one is indeed moving, and it's spinning in the correct direction. We want the motors to spin towards the inside in the middle, towards the inside in the middle. So that's what we want. Number 2. Okay, this one's spinning in the wrong direction. We're gonna mark that side. All right, so number 3. Number 3 is also spinning in the wrong direction, so we're gonna mark that guy, and then we're gonna go to number 4. Number 4 spinning in the correct direction. So we have, let me go through that again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so that's 50-50, right? So We did pretty good, I think. All right, I'm gonna cut the motors off, and now I'm gonna show you real quick how to reverse those motor directions. So if you remember, it's we've got 2 and 3 are reversed. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the battery or unplug it. With
Communication lost.
With these motors, it's real easy. All you have to do is switch any 2 connections. Switch any 2 of the 3, and that will switch the direction of the motor. Okay, so that one's done. We're gonna do number 2 here. Oh, probably open that up. All right, so we're gonna switch number 2 here. We've got some good connectors on there. Friction on that is really good, so I don't suppose those will come undone. All right, there we go. We've switched those 2, and remember it was 2 and 3 that were switched. So we're gonna go ahead and plug that back in. We're gonna wait for the connection to be reestablished.
Communication regained.
There you go. And so when you hear those beep codes are the
Pre-flight.
ESCs.
GPS fixed too low.
I know. We don't have a good enough GPS fix to do autonomous flight, but we're going to switch the motor sliders back on. We're going to go 1. That one's good. That one's good. Now we're going to check the ones that were wiggy before. Alright, so 2 is now spinning in the correct direction. And we're going to do 3. And see, 3 is spinning in the correct direction. Alright, so we've got all the motors spinning in the correct direction now. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the to the sensor stuff. And so we've got a level bench here, so we're going to do the level horizon real quick, and that just tells the quadcopter which way is up. So again, you click on level horizon, you don't have to do anything, you just leave it still on level flat surface, and now quadcopter knows which way is up. Orientations, we have our flight controller facing forward, so we don't have to do anything with that. Rotation is correct, so we're not going to mess with that. And now for the rest of this, the gyroscope is also one that is good to do, because this sets the filters on there. So again, all you have to do is let it sit on there. Boom, gyroscope is done. So calibration on the gyroscope is good, especially when you initially put your flight controller in there, because you want that filter to be nice and set and smooth on there. Now for the rest of this, we're gonna have to strap the battery down onto the drone. So we're gonna do that real quick. I'm gonna remove, now that we don't need the battery alarm, we can take that off, and I'm gonna go ahead and flip our drone over here and use the strap to secure our battery in place for the other sensors. Nice and snug. All right, good deal. So now we're in the home stretch here. We're gonna do the compass calibration. Everybody calls this the dance, so we're gonna go ahead and do that and just leave it in that orientation. Now we're gonna just follow the pictures on screen. It'll guide you as to what it would like to see done with it. And so we're gonna go ahead and do that. And so now we're in the home stretch here. We're gonna do the compass calibration. Everybody calls this the dance, so we're gonna go ahead and do that and just leave it in that orientation. Now we're gonna just follow the pictures on screen. It'll guide you as to what it would like to see done with it. Sorry if that's out of focus there, but yeah, so we'll zip through this with the magic of editing, so you don't have to sit through. Alright, good deal. Now we just reboot the vehicle to get all that to take.
Manual flight mode.
Connections back. Alright. How much of the green line is left? Here we go. Almost there. Go, little line. There you go. All right. Back to vehicle setup. There's one more that we're going to set up, and that's the accelerometer. Once we set up the accelerometer, we're ready to go out in the field. So when you go out in the field and you're taking off from a new location, it's a good idea to do your compass calibration. So at least do the compass calibration when you go out there. You know, that the one that I just did, and it takes a couple minutes, but it's well worth it in terms of your drone having accurate tracking when it's flying around. So you're less likely to have incidents of errors. And so now we're doing the accelerometer. And all you have to do is have it hold still in the orientations that it shows you. And that's just calibrating the accelerometer so that the drone knows how it's oriented in space. And it's good to have a nice flat surface to do this on. So this one is best done on the bench, whereas the compass calibration you can do out in the field pretty easily. And just hold it as still as you can. All right, and now we're done with the bench stuff. So now everything is you've set up everything you need to go ahead and take your drone out into the field. Okay, guys. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that one and got something out of it. As always, I appreciate the time you spend with me. So if you've gotten to the end of this video, this was a long one, a lot of detail to go over in order to get that flight controller in there and have it be a safe installation. So if you like these videos, like, subscribe, like down below. Just don't, go like, oh yeah, I like it. Click on the like down below, share with friends, everybody you can find. And yeah, we also have a Patreon if you would like to contribute to keep these videos going. Like I said before, I don't have a budget for any of this, so anything that you can contribute will help immensely. And yeah, see you in the next video.